Hey, Aaron. Aaron.
Hey.
Okay,
hey,
so this is gonna happen. Okay, good. Finally, it's gonna happen.
What do you? Listen. I don't want to go into it. Okay, let's just record the episode.
Oh yeah, you just okay. So now you want to record, so let's go. Let's go. I've been trying to set this up. We're now running a day behind schedule. I don't know if this thing's gonna get out on time. In fact, it's probably gonna run late. I know that we never promised, and going back to episode 001, we never promised we would hit the 007th of every month, but we have done it. And now I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're going to break the streak on this episode near the end of our run. And I don't know. What's going on? What is taking so long to get a hold of you?
You really think we can't drop this on the 7th? It's too late for that?
We have all kinds of production. We have to drop in the music. We have to, and I know we don't edit, but we still have a lot of processing.
Sound mix.
There's sound mixing, yes. There's a lot of stuff we do, and because my staff doesn't exist anymore, I don't have people on staff anymore. I have to do a lot of it myself, and I'm only one man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being flaky for this past week and not being able to record at our agreed upon times. Things have been really rough.
Just hanging out. That's what you've been doing. Just hanging out, just eating chips, making jokes about Carlin, hanging out. Listen, this is what I was afraid of. When I was listening to you guys the last two episodes, you're just goofing off, just making jokes. Yeah, this is what happens. I hope you realize how irritated I am right now.
Well, consider yourself lucky because there won't be any of that this episode.
Oh.
There won't be any more goofing off. There won't be any more snacks. In fact, there won't be a lot of things. And I don't know. Then no excuses, okay? We're transparent. We're honest with each other.
We are authentic, if nothing else.
Authentic, yes.
We're honest. It's honesty. Honesty is sort of our policy on the show.
There's been a huge change in our podcast that I have yet to talk to you about because I was waiting for us to record, but I've been delaying it because of these changes. I was hoping they'd be resolved by now.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sorry to say that things haven't been going so well here with the Bama Dog as Bond initiative. You may remember we're trying to get our third co-host, Alabama Dog, to be the next James Bond after Daniel Craig.
There's a lot of names out there, like Daniel Craig, of course, hasn't officially said he's not coming back for another movie, but there's a lot of names popping up everywhere. Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, Hugh Jackman, but we're trying to get Alabama Dog, our third co-host on this show. We're trying to get him out there.
He's obviously the most diverse choice.
Oh yeah,
out there.
Everyone that they brought up so far, human.
You're right. But since we over here in the Nebraska headquarters, we've been dealing with this message intensely for the past
you did
months.
A commercial. You did a commercial.
I know you in the Tallahassee office. You haven't really been. We haven't been including you as much as maybe we should have. But me, Scott, John. Even Danny. Who's
Danny again?
He's the high school filmmaker. He was doing the behind the scenes documentary of our podcast.
Right.
We've all come to the conclusion that it's just not going to happen for Bama Dog, and that we were trying to come up with other alternatives, things that he could do. It's just falling flat.
Wait. What is going on? What do you mean? What do you mean? What's not going to happen for Alabama Dog? What's not going to happen?
We feel like the momentum for him to become the next Bond is being too diluted by these other rumors, these other actors, and he's having a hard time breaking into this already saturated news cycle.
Right. If you guys had just listened to me from the start. None of this would have happened.
What do you mean? What does that mean? What did you say from the start?
I said from the start, 6 million listeners on this show. 6 million listeners on the show who would hear the message.
Oh, we're
about
So
Alabama Dog is Bond. But you know what? That's not going to happen now. You didn't focus on it. I never got the marketing plan.
How many listeners?
How many listeners? I have no idea. I have no idea how many listeners. Probably we're still at that 5. That 5 million? That we had.
5 million? Oh, 5.
Yeah,
5 total.
5. I think it's 5. And I'm not even sure about that because, ever since QK was fired, I'm sorry, when we made the mutual agreement that QK would not be a part of the show.
We don't fire people.
We don't fire people. That's not how we operate. I don't think QK listens anymore. So we may be just at 4 listeners.
Did QK ever listen to our podcast?
Yes.
I thought I listened to her Geek Fallout. Sorry, her Feek.
We weren't.
I listened to her
names.
I listened to her Feek Gall Out episode. And she said she never listened to it.
She never listened. She said that on the on that podcast.
Maybe I might be mistaken, but that is a rarity for me to be mistaken. Because I'm an expert. I'm a James Bond.
So wait, okay, let me back you up here. So I've noticed, I've just in our talking for the last I don't know, when I'm talking to you, it just feels like it's forever. So I mean, I'm assuming we've talked for an hour now. I've noticed I don't hear other.
What does that mean? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, it's a good thing. I don't hear other voices, and there's no one else there.
This is what I'm trying to explain to you, but we keep getting off track.
Well, we are talking about James Bond, a James Bond movie, and that's all we're talking about. So we're not really getting off track.
We never get off track.
Okay.
We're just talking about Bond in different layers.
Go ahead.
So, like I was saying, myself, Scott, John, and even to some extent Danny, we tried to approach.
Sorry. Who's Danny again?
You'll see. I'll tell you in the movie. When he's finished with the movie.
Okay.
That is if it ever happens.
I don't know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
We tried to talk about this campaign with Bama Dog and what direction it needs to go in a new direction. And he wasn't having it.
Danny wasn't having it?
No, Bama Dog wasn't having it.
Okay.
And I think Bama Dog's ego has gotten out of control, Carlin. I think it's absolutely out of control. And he stormed out. He stormed out on us as we were trying to have a logical, calm meeting. And he said that we're through, that he doesn't need us, that he's going by himself.
He doesn't need, when he said us, was he talking about you and your friends?
I think everything. I think, and this is really hard for me to say. I know we're recording, and when I don't want to edit this out.
Okay. We can't edit it out.
But Bama Dog, he left, and he didn't say goodbye. And I'm not sure he's going to come back.
Well, how long ago was this?
This was just a few days ago. And
okay, a few days. He may still come back.
The guys have left because without Bama Dog, without his leadership, we have no reason to be here. And I think Bama Dog is done with the creative group, with our podcast. I think he's no longer a co-host.
He's no longer a co-host.
This is the first episode that he has not given any input into our recording.
Okay.
Every episode he gives valuable input. We all know this.
Wow, that's...
I feel like we're down to just you and I, buddy.
I don't know. I kind of feel like this is a 3-person show. I feel like this isn't just a you and me kind of show. I mean, it's never been agree. We had that one month where we split up, and that was its own thing. But this has always been a show where it's been you, it's been me, and it's been Alabama Dog. And I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you. I feel the same way. I tried to convince him to stay. I get
it. I get why you haven't called me back in the last few days. I understand now.
It's been tough. I've been trying to get him on board because I didn't want to do this recording without him.
Yeah. I kind of don't want to do this recording now either.
Should we just give up?
No, we've already started, and now I feel like it's a waste of time if we don't finish it. But
we owe it to our listeners to talk about this episode in particular, because this episode has been, well, we've been talking about this film since episode 1. I feel like in every subsequent episode.
Yeah.
We owe it to our listeners to do this Skyfall episode.
Skyfall.
But it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, we owe it to our listeners, but not our 6 million listeners. Our 4 listeners. So
listen. So what happened with that? So Little Black Rock just didn't come through with their campaign.
Let me just
whatever.
recap for anyone who's new listening. Maybe we have a fifth listener who's new. I was
considered now a listener.
What did you say?
I said maybe Bama Dog is now considered just a listener.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this Bama Dog, come back.
Come home, Bama. Come home, Bama Dog.
Here, Bama Dog. Come on.
Come here. Come on, Bama Dog. I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, we're pre-recording this. I mean, I feel that's kind of dishonest, but we're pre-recording this. So we're not going to know if he responds until...
I don't know what you're talking about.
I agree. Until it gets out there. So we don't know. We don't know when he'll respond. But that was for you, Bama Dog.
I can only assume he's back in Alabama. So he has more of a chance of hearing you because he's closer to you.
Right.
So if you see him, let me know.
You know what? I bet I know where he is. I bet I know exactly where he is. The headquarters for Peppy Coffee, Peppy Foods is in Dothan, Alabama. I bet you that's exactly where he is. He's just hanging out. He's just hanging out at Peppy.
That would just be a dream come true.
For him.
You think he's in? Well, of course, for him. If he's there, do you think he'd really go? I mean, of course, he's probably been there several times. You're right. Maybe we should go to the Peppy headquarters and see if he's there.
Yeah, maybe we should. I don't know. I don't know what to do. But I know also why I don't know what to do, and that is because as I mentioned a few months back, I was a member of a podcast mastermind group.
I
was. I'm no longer a member of this podcast mastermind group. Things have just gotten a little awkward, and I've taken a step. I've taken a step back. A member of this podcast mastermind group, Faye was her name, and she owns a company called Little Black Rock, and it's a marketing firm. And they were starting a podcast about marketing. But if you get on, this is the funny thing.
Wait, what's the name of their podcast? Are we naming names?
Well, no, this is the funny thing. If you get on wherever you find podcasts, you can't find her podcast. You can't even find it.
What?
They all the time recording podcasts, you can't even find it.
So does it really exist?
Tree falls in a forest, man. Tree falls in a forest.
This is this company doesn't sound reliable. And so what's going on with it?
So I engaged in a conversation with her a couple months back, and she offered to craft for me if I signed this pseudo retainer kind of thing. It was very kind of vague. But if I signed this, I would get a marketing plan from her, and the marketing plan explained how I would be able, or would explain how I would be able to get 6 million listeners for this show by this episode. This episode, which is episode 00. I forget the number. What does it even matter at this point, right? I mean, Alabama Dog's not here, so it's sort of like a new 001 because he's not here. It's like starting over.
So you're saying there's it's 0026, by the way.
Okay. So double by.
So you're saying there's still a chance though we can get 6 million listeners for this episode.
No, because I have still yet to this day seen the marketing plan, and that marketing plan should have arrived by now because this episode won't come out until after what we would have come out by. So she's missed the deadline. Not only that, guess what I've learned?
What?
Faye has a new assistant. Faye from the Little Black Rock group. She has a new assistant. She has somebody new working for her. I'll give you one guess as to who that person is.
Is it she who shall not be named?
It is QK. My former assistant now works for
Mother effing QK.
Yeah, QK. So you know what? I'm not supposed to even be talking about this. I have started.
Did Faye know? Like, did she purposely hire QK? Like, is this? I don't know. This seems like a well plotted scheme by QK to get back at us.
It seems very weird, yes. Get back at us for what? We didn't do anything. It was a mutual decision. So I don't get what she would be getting back at us for. That aside, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is I can't say anything. I can't even talk about all the stuff I've already said. I can't even say.
Because you signed papers.
Because one, I've signed papers. Two, I'm signing more papers with my lawyer. And
as you speak, you're signing.
Not as I speak, but David, my lawyer, has advised me not to speak about this, so I can't say anything about it.
But we're a podcast. You have to speak about something.
I know, but we'll talk about. I tell you what we'll do. We'll talk about James Bond.
Tell me we can get our. We've been talking about James Bond.
I know.
Tell me we can get our money back.
I don't know. Hopefully Dave, my man, Dave. Dave's my lawyer, man.
Is he like a super chill guy? Is that why you like refer to him as?
Not at all. He's nothing like that at all. I just try, you know.
Just try to like be cool like Dave.
No. I just try and like get the cool out of him. You know.
Oh.
Like he.
Is he not cool?
No, he's a lawyer, man. He's like super serious. He's like super, like he's meticulous. He knows all the laws. And that's kind of like what we're doing is that he's helping me with this little issue and I'm helping him like, here's how you be cool, man.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of bartering it. Like, so that's how you're paying him? Just with like, we're going to help him.
You think I got money that I'm going to give him? No.
This seems like a, okay. I'm I can't wait to hear how you help him be cool. I feel like this is a 90s rom-com script that you're writing.
If anyone can help him be cool, who is that person that can help him be cool?
Bama Dog.
I mean, besides him.
I don't know. Besides Bama Dog. Wait, did you hear that? I thought I heard some barking in the distance. I thought it might be him. Did you hear that? I thought I heard some barking. Sorry.
Do you feel like this show is a little bit different without him?
It's just so dry. And it's different.
What do you think Janice is going to say?
Janice.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Janice. Well, I know she's looking forward to this episode.
Oh, how do you know that?
Well, she wrote me another letter.
Oh, here we go. Dear Aaron. Subtext.
What that is. This may be your that may be your fan mail.
Oh no, my fan mail. I mean, I don't even read it because I get so much of it. I can't even possibly read it all.
You are a horrible
person,
co-host. You don't even read your fan mail. Oh, that's horrible. So Janice wrote me again, and it was lovely. It was lovely. She says this, Dear Aaron.
There's the sigh. Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Skyfall. I can't wait to revisit Daniel's dreamy blue eyes.
Oh my goodness.
Sincerely, Janice. that tells me that this is the episode she's been waiting for so long.
Uh-huh.
And that she has high expectations. And right now, I don't feel like we're living up to those expectations.
Right.
And it's not really our fault. Now, is it?
You're right. This has been the one we've been building to, because I think almost every episode we've referenced Skyfall, or you've referenced Skyfall. Here's the Skyfall bit. Skyfall! You even made a bumper for it, right? And this is where we're going.
The bumper.
Yeah, sure, whatever. It deserved a bumper. Blah. It doesn't matter if it did or not. We've been talking about it for 25 episodes, and now here we are, and one of our co-hosts has bailed on us. So if we don't live up to expectations, whose fault is it? Not yours, not mine.
I can tell you this right now. This episode is not going to win a potty.
Probably not.
And it's not our fault.
But if he had been here, it would have. It would have.
Oh, it was destined to win a potty.
Right. Blocked at every turn we are on the potty.
But the only thing left that we can do is to continue talking about James Bond.
As we have been doing. Because that's all we do.
That's why I said continue.
I know, I'm just reiterating that for you, for me, for Janice, and for Primetime Polly.
Primetime Polly, we love you. We hope you're listening.
We do. We do love you.
One of our 5 listeners. And
4.
my mom.
I listen. Oh, your mom?
Oh, my mom.
Oh,
remember,
we have 5.
She was one of the
5.
original. 5. We're up to 5. Woo! I would. This is about the time I would say, congratulations, guys, but there's nobody here to celebrate with me.
Oh, poor Aaron.
Poor Aaron. He's got the sadness.
So Skyfall is the most recently produced James Bond movie. It is starring Daniel Craig, who currently is the sitting James Bond.
Besides Spectre, because that's
But as of the time produced. Of us recording this, so when we're recording this now, it is the most recent James Bond, Skyfall. We could say Spectre's the most recent, but it's not out yet.
It's not out. Okay.
But it could be out.
Yeah,
if someone listens to this episode a year from the time we recorded, then I guess Skyfall technically isn't.
Future people listening to this post Spectre, we are recording this pre-Spectre.
Yes.
Don't hate us.
Well, don't hate us for that.
Well, yeah, hate us for lots of other reasons. Skyfall, most recent James Bond film. Yes, came out in 2012.
Yes.
November. 50th anniversary of James Bond Eon Production films.
Films, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a big milestone. Big celebration.
Right. Stars Daniel Craig. It stars Dame Judi Dench. And I dare say those are the top 2 people in this movie.
Do you say top 2 as in the top build, or the top 2 people you're ranking them? I
don't know if that's the top build. I don't recall the actual order of the credits, but I would say as far as who the characters are in this movie, it is a James Bond and M film.
James Bond and M.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's their story.
Well, good. We agree. I guess we can move on.
All right, we're done here. Dodgeball?
Nah, not yet. Not yet.
Okay, I'll play the bumper again later.
Okay.
So yeah, Daniel Craig, Judi Dench. This film clearly their story, and Judi Dench is clearly the Bond girl in this film.
Oh, absolutely.
If there's a Bond girl in this film, and there's a few of them. But Judi Dench's mom has the best story. She is the love of James Bond's heart in this film, in a non-romantic way.
Right, in a maternal way.
Yeah, it's incredibly touching, and it completely makes sense within the script, within the themes going on here, that this being Judi Dench's last film. And that they have her exit in this fashion. It was really powerful. I thought they gave her a grand farewell, a worthy farewell for as long as she's been in the franchise. It was nice.
Right, because this would have been her 7th film. Which means...
I'm trusting you because you won 007 Seen It.
007 Seen It. Well, yeah, she was in all 4 Brosnan films, and this was her 3rd Craig film. She was in 7 films. And that means she matched Roger Moore. She had more official Bond films than Connery.
That's right. And what a... Like Judi Dench obviously is considered one of the greatest actresses ever, one of the greatest actors ever. And this film, let me tell you, you'd be hard pressed to find a film with better acting in it than this film. With the cast that they line up for this, and the accolades that they garnered for their performances, it'd be hard pressed to find better acting. And in some sense, some better writing than this film has. Like, it was overall very, very impressive.
In some ways, I agree with you. In some ways, I don't. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, go please.
Well, I agree. I agree on the acting. I think the acting is superb. It's phenomenal. I think the character writing in this is great. I think the plot writing was a little weak in my mind.
The plot writing, you and your plot. You and your plot, ever since For Your Eyes Only. And I love that Bond says For Her Eyes Only in this film.
Right.
Ever since that, you've been so stuck on your plot. How much plot do you need?
I think I'd like for there to always be a good amount of plot and character development.
There's plenty of character development.
There's plenty of character development in this, but I feel like the plot it suffers. It suffers on this one. There's a lot of questionable things, a lot of leaps people make, a lot of things. I'm like, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you because I'm having fun. I'm gonna go with you because this movie looks fantastic. It's the best looking Bond film. It's one of the best acted. Probably not even one of. It probably is the best acted film. So there's a lot of things where I'm just saying, you know what? I'm with you. I'm with you guys. I'm with you, Sam Mendes. I'm with you, Daniel Craig. But back of my mind, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Or that was kind of a weak little thing. Or I didn't really like that decision on the story.
Like what? Like what? Like Silva's grand plan.
Like Silva's grand plan is a great example. It's a great example. You know, it just was like, how convenient this guy had plotted everything out so perfectly. He knew if he does this, then they'll do this. There's so many factors in the world, and he plotted this thing out 20 years in advance or whatever. How did he put this thing together? I can't even buy it.
He's a Bond villain. What Bond villain doesn't have a grand scheme that it requires a bunch of coincidences, or that he needs to have the impression of being an evil genius? And evil geniuses know things like that. You know?
I know, but
that's what made him so intimidating.
But the whole okay, here's my plan. I'm going to get captured. I'm going to be in a cell. I happen to know which cell I'm going to be in. There's no way they're going to put me somewhere else. There's no way that somebody's going to be like, I'm going to shoot you in the head right now. There's no way that's going to happen.
Listen, I think he gets away with it. I agree. And when you're thinking logically as like a normal human being,
okay.
Like there's a lot of factors in there. Like, well, how did he know he was going to put in that exact cell? How did he know that there was going to be an escape route inside of that cell? How did he know there was only going to be one guard on him? How did he know that Q was going to plug in the computers?
Right.
The computer.
Thank you. The subway. How did he know he'd go right to the right subway channel and he'd blow the thing up and Bond would be there? And like, how did he know?
But his character if there's any villain that can get away with that, it's him, because he essentially was the James Bond before James Bond. He knew M. He knew the contingency plan if the MI6 building would have gotten blown up. So he knew where it
possibly could not have changed. There's no way that could have changed.
Well, there's like a line in the film that he knew where they would go in case of an emergency. He was basically an inside informant, without them knowing. Like, if there was any villain that could get away with that, it would be him. And logically, there may have been too many cases where too many things had to happen perfect for him to get out. But that, I guess it didn't really bother. The part where it did lose me, and one of the very few times in this film where I felt like there was an action happening that didn't have substance behind it. And let me tell you, most of the 99% of this film had substance behind its action, which I think is what makes it really good. But the whole train coming through the wall and almost killing Daniel Craig, that seemed like a very
almost killing James Bond. Daniel Craig is the actor. Come on. Well, I know Bama Dog leaving has confused you, but I mean
that was just an action movie scene. Like, there was, like, why would he set up this elaborate explosion and train coming perfectly timed when like why go that through the effort and not just like set up a mine right there?
Right.
And he easily just dodged the train anyway. That was just like an action movie moment where like you see that all the time when in like regular action movies. But other than that, I guess I just wasn't really bothered. But I'm glad you could like still go along with it, that it didn't ruin the movie for you.
Well, I'll tell you another major thing that I liked but didn't like at the same time, and that is the whole mortality or the whole aging of James Bond.
Oh man!
Now,
so you did not like that.
I liked it and didn't like it at the same time. Okay. At the same time, I liked it and didn't like it. I liked the idea of it. I liked how they executed it. But at the same time, I felt like because his two previous movies were how he had just become 007, that like wasn't like, wait, what's going on? Isn't he a brand, like a newer agent? Isn't he sort of supposed to be this like new 00 agent? And now 3 years later in my time, he's now this like decrepit old man. And I felt like the whole like him getting shot and then getting shot again or whatever that was, and him being not James Bond. That story arc of him sort of like he lost his powers in a sense, if I can use that sort of metaphor. That I felt like it needed something. It didn't carry much weight because like why was that the case? Like, we don't get much of a reason for why that's part of the story. It's just like he gets shot on that beginning train chase scene, and then Moneypenny shoots, and then does he get shot again? It was vague then, and he goes into hiding. He just sort of like retires. But why? Like, why? That's not the Bond that I felt like we had known from the two previous films. Like, why was he doing that? What has changed that he would just abandon his duty like that? But that said, I liked where it went, but I just felt like early on I wasn't sure why we were going down that road.
I think this film is a great film of its time because it needs the cultural context of when Skyfall came out, and it's very aware of like the whole theme, the whole story is trying to tell is that it's very aware of how old-fashioned a James Bond story is, and how there are a lot of other spy films, there's a lot of other action films. James Bond films don't really stand out in any way in terms of gadgetry or effects or action or anything like that. It's like but it taking a hard look at an identity crisis as far as who James Bond is and where his place is in the world, I think that made it stand out from the crowd. I think that made it like something that all of us, we've all had thoughts like that about James Bond. As actors get older, we're all thinking like, how is he able to do this? This is not realistic. And instead of doing the fantastical James Bond films, it's still continued what Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace had set up, being based in reality. And to me, it was different. Absolutely, I agree with you that it's out there for a James Bond film. But to me, it's the most character building in any James Bond film that we've dealt with, and it's all done with Daniel Craig saying about 5 lines total, maybe in the first half hour of the film, or at least the first 15-20 minutes of the film before he meets M afterwards. And I think it's a good, in the first 2 films he's just becoming James Bond, but 3 years after, you got to think about the life expectancy of a secret agent. It's probably not too long, and I'm sure in between that time he's been in several missions. By the time he's at the very beginning, he's already frustrated with M for having let the other agent go.
Right.
And he's going to die.
That's the only hook I see for him.
He's very frustrated, and he's got the earpiece in. You can tell that he's connected to M, but he feels frustrated, and then he feels betrayed that they're no longer seen as worth keeping around. And that's the only connection where I can see him being depressed and maybe unsure of himself, and then leading more and more into those themes. I guess but I can understand it's different. It's definitely different than any other James Bond movie.
And that's fine. And I'm just explaining like I said, I like it and I dislike it at the same time. I think I would like it a whole lot better if it had gotten a bit more. But you're right. I mean, there is the dead agent at the beginning, and then he did hear M say, "Take the shot." He references that later. Is that enough to launch this particular subplot? I guess. Would I have liked to have seen a little bit more? Yeah, probably. I think if there had been another movie between Quantum and Skyfall that was a little bit more of like, here's just an adventure between the beginning and Skyfall, or back to your point about Quantum, if Quantum had not been the epilogue to Casino and had been an adventure on its own, then maybe it wouldn't have seemed so jarring that we get the beginning of his story and now we're getting what is sort of said to be his end, although I know we've got another movie coming, but the way Skyfall is presented is like, he's not fit for duty, he can't do this, but we're going to let him do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, that also plays into the whole idea of trying to get rid of M and all the agents altogether, that an agent like James Bond can overcome all those obstacles. And what I think, how they get away with it is brilliant acting, brilliant directing, that especially on Daniel Craig's part, because a good portion of this film is just a silent film. I mean, the whole Shanghai scene there is zero dialogue, except for when he's holding the guy outside the window and he says, who did you give the chip to? It's like the only piece of dialogue. It's a great spy film in that sense. And there's just, Skyfall is a great standalone film. And I know that in Inspector, there's probably going to be a lot of connections that go on. Obviously recurring characters, maybe some more information about Bond's backstory. But I don't know. I think it was very ambitious. They could have made it easy, typical story, everything like that. It could have been really good. It could have been noteworthy. But I think in my opinion, how they did Skyfall was incredibly ambitious and risky, and it stands out from the crowd because of that.
Can I tell you one more thing I don't like?
Sure.
So we already referenced Dame Judi Dench and how this was her last film, and obviously I think if people are listening to this, I think Primetime Polly, Janice, your mom, they all know how this movie ends, so I'm not giving anything away, but M she dies.
We've already had spoilers.
We already have had spoilers, but this is a big one. M dies. M passes away. In the fight sequence at the Skyfall Lodge, she is shot, and then she essentially bleeds to death and dies. I feel like because Silva's whole point was to kill M, that, wait, didn't the villain kind of win, even though he didn't see that he won? Because he died first, didn't he win? That's always kind of bugged me.
You think because she died?
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
That's all Silva wanted.
Well, it seemed to be a lot of what he was wanting. He was very fixated on her.
But he wanted to kill her.
Yes, and
he didn't kill her. He told everybody explicitly beforehand that leave her to me.
I understand. But the point of everything was for her to die. And I know he didn't do it, and he didn't see her die. So, okay, he didn't win, but wait, his ultimate objective still came to fruition. She still died. So Bond didn't stop. He didn't wind up saving her. He took her out to Skyfall Lodge. He and Albert Finney teamed up to keep her safe, and they failed.
I love that team. I love that duo too.
Oh, that duo is awesome, but
it's great.
Not strong enough to keep M from dying.
I mean, sure. Yeah. Like he wasn't able to keep her alive, but
had you never considered that? Had that never crossed your mind?
I guess no, not really, because I felt like. One, he didn't get the satisfaction. He didn't succeed in doing what he wanted to do, was to kill her, because he didn't see that she died. He didn't get to kill her himself. James Bond foiled his plan, and that James Bond succeeded in isolating him, and then taking him out versus continuing to be a terrorist in a city, or killing more people.
Sure. I mean, he did take Silva out, and a lot of Silva's team. So in that way, he didn't fail. And I guess M was on her way out anyway, so it wasn't like, oh, this person that was extremely vital is now no longer with us. They pretty much already told her she was done. So
yeah,
I guess it's no big deal. That little part has always sort of bugged me. Like, would there have been a better way to have had her still die, but yet not in the way she did? Or I don't know.
Well, I liked it because she died in such a peaceful manner, in such it was just them. Like, it was just them in a small church, chapel out in the the wilderness, essentially.
Right.
And it was exactly what Silva didn't want to happen. Because Silva wanted this grand theatrical display of killing her in front of the court on this day as she's trying to defend her reasoning, her reason for doing all this. He wanted this big theatrical display. And in the end, it was quite the opposite. It was quite intimate. And but I mean, technically you're right. Like, she died.
Right.
And
Yeah,
James Bond,
right.
James Bond couldn't do anything. James Bond couldn't do anything. But in the end, he got a new M who
pretty awesome M, by the way.
Pretty awesome M, who throughout the film, I think Mallory's transformation or coming around to seeing Judi Dench's M's point about why these agents are needed or why espionage is still needed was a pretty cool subplot. So in that way, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I get what you're saying. It didn't bother me at all. I never even thought about it. I never even gave it a second thought.
Okay. Well, now you have. So I've done that for you. I've broadened your horizons.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
We've talked a lot about plot, but I've alluded to the way this movie looked, and I just want to talk a little bit more about it. If anything, this movie, because it was so beautiful, it was distracting. And I know probably not for many people it would be this way, but those of us, those people like you and me who we are students of the film, we take these films and we just gobble them up and we digest them and we live them and breathe them, especially the Bond films, because that's what we do. We're James Bond experts.
We live and breathe them.
This one, because of the cinematography and art direction and the set design and everything about it, it really stands out as like every shot is gorgeous, and I'm sitting there thinking that every shot is gorgeous. Oh wow, that looks great. And almost to the point of taking me out of the film. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, that's a good thing, but it's so different that for someone like you or me, and maybe this didn't affect you, but for me, I was like, whew, that looks great. That shot is amazing.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I was so pumped before this was coming out. As soon as Sam Mendes signed on for this film, I was so pumped because Sam Mendes is one of, if not my favorite filmmaker ever. Every single one of his films that comes out blows me away, and his films are just flat out some of my favorite films ever. And I love him as a director, and his acting in his films are impeccable because he's a theater director. He works really, really well with actors, and he's got such great composition with his shots that he understands storytelling in incredible detail. So I was so excited because with Sam Mendes, he brings his normal team. So we get Roger Deakins, who's the DP on this film, and his cinematography, like you said, is just absolutely breathtaking. And this is the first time Roger Deakins had shot on digital camera. But let me tell you, the Alexa camera is beautiful in this film. Roger Deakins did a fantastic job. I know he's up for an Oscar for this, and he's still yet to win after 12 nominations now, which is baffling because he's freaking Roger Deakins. And also we get Thomas Newman doing the score, and Thomas Newman is a fantastic composer.
Yeah, not the because they'd had a guy, and I can't remember if it was the same guy. For a long time, they had a guy named David Arnold, and that music has always seemed so James Bond cookie cutter. But yes, in this movie, the score is so much richer and it's better.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I loved it. And the throwbacks to like the old score it was just tastefully done. And so like this is the first time where I feel like a James Bond film was getting the A team in terms of filmmakers, and everything just came together for this 50th anniversary. It's like in order a team in a film like Skyfall would not have happened without the Casino Royale or even the Quantum of Solace before it, because it took Bond in a dramatic direction, in a direction where it was worthy of recognition, that it could warrant needing a director like Sam Mendes and a DP like Roger Deakins, where they would want to be a part of the franchise. And it just, so many things came together for this film at the perfect time that it was striking. It was quite beautiful seeing it on screen. And for it to be in a James Bond film was even, it was like, I was like in movie heaven when this came out. Except for when I saw this in the theater, it was like one of my worst theater experiences ever.
I wound up seeing it twice in the theater, and I had a pretty bad first experience, and then the second experience, I just had a lot going on personally at the time, and as I watched this movie again, it took me back to that time, and that's not a reflection on anything Sam Mendes did, so I won't hold that against him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm super surprised he's doing Spectre, because he'd say that he didn't want to do it again, and I don't know how they got him back to do it, because he's such a
I'll tell you what. I wrote him a letter.
Oh, that's right. Well, I don't think he's really listening to our letter. Let me tell you what, he's back, but he's not doing what we asked him to do.
There's so much to talk about with this movie. There really is so much to delve into. We could talk for hours about it. But I don't know if that's what our listeners want or expect. So what's the next big thing to talk about? I feel like it's worth mentioning we've already talked about Ralph Fiennes, we didn't mention his name, but Mallory, his character, the new M, who will be M in the next movie. But the other characters who came back, we've got Eve Moneypenny and
Eve
Q.
Moneypenny.
Yes.
Q. Yes.
Those two characters had not been in the previous James Bond films, and then they came back in Skyfall.
Just the two previous Bond films.
I'm sorry, correct. The two Daniel Craig, the two previous Daniel Craig films.
Yes.
This was they had not existed in the rebooted universe.
Not Earth 2 universe, just the...
Well, this would be like Earth 3 in a way. 1.
No, we're not. No, this is not Earth 3.
Yeah, it would be. Well, no, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this then, because I do want to talk about this. I do want to actually talk about this.
How does... Okay, I think the Aston Martin DB5.
Exactly, you're going exactly where I'm going.
It is the connection that this indeed is the same James Bond.
No, I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree. So here's what I think is going on. I think we have a Connery, Lazenby, Moore timeline. We have that Eon, Connery, Lazenby, Moore. That's what we'll call that Bond Earth 1.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Tangentially, perhaps a part of that, also Dalton Brosnan. But it's tougher to connect them. But
because of GoldenEye.
Because of the overlap, but because of the age mainly the age. The fact that, I would say Dalton and Brosnan, clearly the same Bond. Yeah. But I'm not sure they're the same as the previous guys. So let's table what that's called. We have the Connery Never Say Never Again Bond, which we've already labeled as Earth 2.
Earth 2. And
then we have, I would say, the Daniel Craig is a new Earth. Is another Earth. Perhaps this is Earth 4. Perhaps Dalton Brosnan is Earth 3, and this is Earth 4.
Listen, I get it. It's a Casino Royale rebooted Bond where he's becoming a 00. And it continues the storyline into Quantum of Solace, unfortunately. And then we get Skyfall.
Or fortunately.
And so you're saying that there's a clear separation, that now we are in, even though Judi Dench crosses over from the Pierce Brosnan timeline.
Well, so does Sean Connery from one timeline to another.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So Judi Dench can cross over from one to the other.
But it was... So you're saying that you think this is an entirely new Bond universe?
Yes. However, that said, we do have a period of time clearly that exists between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, where adventures did occur, where he got the Aston Martin.
Yes.
So what I do think could have happened is that on Earth 4, as I'm now calling the Craig universe, is that things like Goldfinger could have occurred. He had his own Goldfinger adventure, but it was not the Sean Connery Goldfinger adventure.
Why?
It was a modern... Because it was a modern day. It took place in 2010, and...
Listen, they're all... Oh, no. now you're thinking like of the different time periods, but you just got to think of it as like one Bond character that in between the two.
This is where I'm going to bring us back to Moneypenny. Because Sean Connery interacts with Moneypenny, he interacts with Q in Goldfinger, but they are not a part of Daniel Craig's world until Skyfall. So that story is different. Even though it still happened for him, even though he still encountered an Earth 4 Goldfinger in 2011 or whatever year it would have been, he still got that awesome Aston Martin. For him, it was different. It was a different adventure.
Wait, I think it's just Moneypenny, because doesn't he refer to, like, are you the new Q? Or
fine, I'm your new quartermaster. Whatever.
Yeah, new quartermaster. So there could have been, Desmond Llewellyn could have been that Q, the previous Q.
Or John Cleese. We don't know.
Or John
Cleese.
We don't know. But you're right. The Moneypenny thing throws it for a loop because she's new in this film,
right? And M in Goldfinger was a man, and Judi Dench would have been the M in the Goldfinger for Earth 4.
But Moneypenny was around. She's there at the beginning of Skyfall, but she's a field agent. So maybe on all the previous adventures, like the Goldfinger, like the Diamonds Are Forever, Moneypenny, she may be seen behind a desk, but he's just confused because he only knows her as a field agent.
But I dare say he introduced.
I'm trying to make it work.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work because it's his own. Daniel Craig's his own version of Goldfinger. It's his own whatever else. His own version of Moonraker. Maybe Daniel Craig went into space just 2 months previously. He had his own Moonraker.
So you're saying that when he opens the garage and he sees the car,
yeah,
that Daniel Craig and Judi Dench look at it as if they're recognizing that, oh, this is the James Bond car from Earth 1 James Bond.
No, they're recognizing it from the previous adventure that had occurred on Earth 4 that was hauntingly similar to the adventure that happened in 1964 or 5 or whatever.
You don't think that car, they just got it transported from Earth 4, that like they were consciously aware that,
oh my goodness,
there's another James Bond universe?
No, I don't think so.
They took it from that?
I don't think so.
I kind of like to think of like James Bond and modern day James Bond. He's like, oh shoot, this guy existed in the past on another planet. I'm kind of a collector of James Bond merchandise since I'm James Bond.
I'm the collector of alternate reality versions of things that I owned in other worlds.
Yes. Why wouldn't you do that?
I don't know.
That would be amazing. I kind of want
to do that now for myself. Like, what things do alternate versions of Carlin Trammell? Maybe in another world, there's a Carlin Trammell out there that has a different kind of podcast.
That's like in the movie Another Earth, which I know you are also a fan of.
I am a fan of.
Where the main character, she wants to visit Earth 2 so she can know what her alternate reality is. I think James Bond, Daniel Craig, wants to know what his alternate reality used to be in these older James Bond universes.
This is the most amazing discussion of James Bond metaphysics I think has ever happened on a podcast.
I think Daniel Craig is this like space-time traveler.
And I gotta say,
who's a collector.
I would be shocked if your mom is still listening.
She eats this stuff up. She loves this stuff. All right, I think we've solved that question.
I don't know if we have, because I don't think you and I are completely on the same page here, but
listen, it's really fun to think about.
I could see a series of novels or a series of comic books or whatever, whatever they call the expanded universe.
Maybe this will be part of our James Pod film.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
So you're saying that there could be an expanded universe of James Bond films, much like there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe and soon to be Star Wars universe.
I'm saying
that there could be like a movie based on like a James Bond like character that's not James Bond.
No. The idea of there being like the additional novels or comics where there are things that are being written by people. So I could see somebody writing novels that would fill the gap between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. Okay. And they basically just could sit down with all of the the previous 20 films, the going from Connery to Brosnan, and rewrite them as though they occurred in a three-year span of time. And it was Daniel Craig doing them. I would love to read the Daniel Craig version of the modern day Octopussy story. That would be great.
Isn't it 4 year span? 2012.
When did Quantum come out?
2008.
Okay, so 4 years.
4 year span. Yeah. So he has an extra year to do all these things.
I mistakenly, you know what? I mistakenly thought it was 09. I apologize to everyone who thought better of me. I thought Quantum.
Are you saying that you aren't a James Bond expert?
I am a James Bond expert. Okay. But sometimes we have to catch each other when we fall. I catch you a lot. That's sometimes you catch me.
That is the most team-oriented thing I've ever heard you say.
Who else are we going to depend on now? If not each other,
because we're a man down here. We are shorthanded here on the podcast. All right, I want to see these comics. I want to see these books. Maybe even like a crossover film. Get Sean Connery back. Get Roger Moore back.
Well, when we're done writing our book, maybe we can start writing those books.
Are you still writing our book? Because I'm not.
Not really. I mean, I'll get back to it.
Let's just table that for now, because we've got bigger fish to fry.
Yes. You mentioned Connery. I think you said something just now about a Connery cameo. I remember reading a rumor that Connery would have a cameo in this film.
We don't talk about rumors here. We are a rumor-free Bond resource.
I know. I'm not talking about rumor.
You just mentioned the word rumor, and you read a rumor.
Well, let me finish where I'm going. I remember reading a rumor that Connery would play a role in Skyfall as sort of an homage. And as I watched the movie, and I think when I watched it, I knew he wouldn't be in it. But as I watched it, I remember thinking like, oh, who would he be in this? And I think the obvious choice is Kincaid. And I am so glad. I'm actually so glad it wasn't Connery. I think that would have been very confusing.
It's very distracting.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. That would have connected our idea here.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so many more opportunities. Like what? Like, wait a second. Daniel Craig grew up with this Sean Connery Bond as like the housekeeper of. Wait a second. So is he James Bond named after him, James Bond? Was he his father? What's going on? Is this like a James Bond Jr. situation going on? So many different things.
Yeah.
That would have been really confusing.
But it does bring up sort of another point I want to bring up, and that is we do finally get after, in the 23rd movie, and I know some of it had been dealt with in the books, or at least explained in the books. We always knew he was an orphan. We knew he went into the Navy. We knew some stuff about his backstory, but it's never been a big deal. It's never in the other 22 movies had it ever been that big of a deal. But finally here we get just a little bit more. And we don't even get that much more. We just kind of see his house. We know there's a Kincaid. We know the name of his parents, which that was in the books. But we don't even really know. Like at one point, M's like, "What happened?" And Bond's like, "You already know."
Yeah,
and that's all that we get.
Well, we get a lot of emotional information without actually getting detailed information, which was great because I mean with Kincaid. We get some information from him. You know, he went into the room when his parents died, and when he came out, he became a man. He was no longer a boy. Stuff like that was like perfect. And the fact that James Bond went there, and he hated the house. I mean, when we visually see what kind of home, what kind of environment he grew up in, it just says a lot about who he is. You know, what he had to deal with as a little boy, and how far he's come, and you know he uses his dad's rifle, and there's a lot of little trinkets in there just to splash some more information. That was great character building. But you're right, we don't really find out how they died or what happened, and maybe we'll find out in Spectre. Who knows?
And we don't even because you're right. He did go into the cave or the tunnel, and he came out. Went in a boy, came out a man. But I mean, the one thing I was looking for was the age, and I don't think it was said in the movie. I think in the books he was like 10 or 11, but that was that was sort of a thing. Like those little minute details that I was kind of looking for. Like as a James Bond expert, I want to know.
Yeah, how did he get recruited?
Yeah,
how did he get away? Did he run away? Did he get sent off to school? Did he go to James Bond Jr.'s same school? Like,
right?
Is he an alum?
I assume he is.
I assume they're all, and that maybe this new Q is the Q from James Bond Jr. because he was so upset that he was young.
Oh, that could be it. I bet that's it. I bet he's actually because Q was Q's grandson, right?
Yeah, well, whatever his name was in James Bond Jr., he graduated and he took his grandfather's place.
Oh, that's great. That's beautiful.
Oh.
So that means James Bond... No, wait. So there will be 2 James Bonds in this universe? That doesn't make sense.
No, Daniel Craig is the James Bond in the James Bond Jr. universe.
So he had just met Q. He would have already met Q. He wouldn't have even met Q. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. So James Bond would have a nephew that went to school with Q, the new Q, is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is Q's grandfather was the other quartermaster that Daniel Craig refers to.
Okay. I'll go with that.
We're gonna try to make it work. So that means that a whole host of different villains also exist in this universe.
As I believe is the case.
Such as Jaws and Goldfinger. And so that is... If those villains are the same villains from the Sean Connery universe...
No, they're the Earth 4 versions of them.
Earth 4 versions? Okay, yes. So did they do research also on the Sean Connery, the Earth 1 versions?
I don't think so.
There's a whole bunch of there's probably libraries on Earth 4 universe where you can go look up your Earth 1 and Earth 2 and Earth 3 versions of yourself and study up on the past. There's classes where you can study on your past self. You've been reincarnated. I may be going too far.
Maybe.
It's out of control. There's just so much to talk about in this movie. There's just so much. I mean, we haven't even talked about Javier Bardem.
Well, I was just thinking we have not even gotten into him
or or Severin, or I mean the way Javier Bardem is introduced and his monologue is just I thought the way he's a great villain. Okay, he's great. He's a great theatrical villain without being over the top, but quite threatening. And I know that there are some parts of his plan that you aren't a fan of, but just himself as an actor.
No, the plan worked out great. I mean, if he can actually execute this plan as flawlessly as he did, which he almost was, it was almost flawless. I'm pretty impressed. I think it's just that when I step out, and I think the believability is lacking. But no, he was an incredible villain, incredible actor. One of the best villains we'd seen in a while. Like you said, that opening monologue he just comes out and he just delivers it perfectly. And I know he's not spot on the same kind of character, but I'd like to think that some of that comes from the Heath Ledger Joker, the Christopher Nolan version of the Joker. I see some similarities between the two characters, even as far as getting captured and breaking out again.
So you're saying a James Bond film copied a Christopher Nolan film.
Finally that happened. Yes, because Christopher Nolan's been
because that hasn't happened in almost every single James Bond film.
Yeah, I think there's some similarities. There's
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, that's an iconic villain and character that obviously a lot of filmmakers and a lot of writers can draw inspiration from. And I don't think we get again, this cast. I don't feel like we get quality actors such as Javier Bardem and Ray Fiennes or
Ralph Fiennes.
Or Ralph Fiennes, or Albert Finney, or some of these actors. If we don't get a crew with Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, and that doesn't happen without films like Casino Royale
and Quantum of Solace.
So it's just a great, like, just so many things came together to get this cast and to get all these other elements. That Javier Bardem is, I mean, obviously he's already been an iconic villain in No Country for Old Men, where he blew up after that. And I mean, this just shows his versatility as an actor, and he's fantastic in it. So was there any other thing you want to talk about before we get to Dodgeball?
Nope, Dodgeball. Dodgeball!
I already played the bumper. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it.
Dodgeball!
I just said that I already played the bumper. This is actually my second time. Now third time.
Okay.
I believe that you're up first, sir.
I am, and this is tough because I've got such an awesome team, and I don't think I've picked anybody the last 2 episodes, and rightfully so, because I just can't.
2 episodes?
Seem to.
This is so tough. It's our last Bond movie we're covering before the new one. Yeah, it's tough. It's gonna be tough.
I will tell you, if you're listening, that if you want to know who is on our dodgeball teams, you can go to podjamespod.com.
Nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear this.
If you look over on the right, there's a dodgeball teams link, and it lists out who's currently on our team and then who's been on our team in the past. And I just look at my team, and I wonder who could go, and if I want to replace anybody. And that guy who was in the helicopter with the machine gun, strong candidate. He was hitting all kinds of things. I'm half tempted to pick the helicopter itself.
The helicopter?
I'm half tempted to think, oh, you know what? Maybe I just picked the helicopter.
How is... Oh. So are you gonna draft the helicopter?
It's just a matter of who on my team goes. If I pick the helicopter, then who goes? And yeah, I think Cigar Girl's going and helicopter's coming on the team.
Cigar Girl is finally gone. I can't believe you're getting rid of Cigar Girl. The last link to QK's
yeah, exactly. QK was a big fan of Cigar Girl, and her treacherous ways make me want to get rid of Cigar Girl. So the helicopter at the end that fires on Skyfall, that's on my team.
Are you going to be blasting music the entire competition? I mean,
absolutely.
I feel like we've needed some background music while we've playing, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, there'll be some music playing. It'll play this. Dodgeball! Dun, 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 dun.
Just over and over again.
Yep.
Just over and over again. All right. Well, you have the aerial attack. I have the submarine attack.
Yep.
In various ways. At least my Lotus can shoot into the air from under the water. It targets specifically things like helicopters. So I got you there.
Right.
Sorry.
You got me there.
I got you there with Wet Nelly. Oh, Wet Nelly. That was not my Sheriff Pepper voice, or was it?
Sheriff Pepper.
Sheriff Pepper.
Nobody runs than Sheriff J.W. Pepper. Sheriff Pepper.
I'm not drafting anybody. If I was heavily considering Silva in this film simply because he's throwing grenades in that house.
Oh yeah,
and he's great. He's great at cornering your Daniel Craig Bond to the point where Daniel Craig can't even attack. He can't even function because Silva is. But
we'll use the tunnel. We'll use the tunnel in the back, and we'll get out.
Well, that's only if we're playing on that course.
I considered Silva as well because of his master planning skills, but ultimately I felt like I don't know if we can keep him in check.
Yeah. I will say I am afraid of your Daniel Craig Bond now because he's a master knife thrower. Not quite to the extent of my Mishka, my twin knife thrower number 1, but he is pretty dang good.
Yeah, he's excellent.
But I am not drafting anybody. I just like I just can't. I can't part with my guys, with my characters.
Let me ask you a question. This is something that one of our listeners on Twitter wanted us to do. We have not done this in a few episodes, but I thought it was a good thing. You know, with Alabama Dog being not a part of the show anymore, maybe it's time to introduce a new segment on the show, and that is, what sandwich would it be?
Ham,
turkey,
pickle,
Alfred,
mayo. What kind of sandwich would it be?
And I think we realize that this episode's going a bit longer than our typical episode, but you know what? We're down a person. We've kind of been doing this on the fly, but we want to do a segment like this for our fans, for our listeners is a great idea.
I think so, and I think, you know, if there's any chance that we're going to win the potty, it's because of a segment like this. Yeah. So, what if there was a sandwich called the Skyfall? You walk into like a New York deli, and they have the Skyfall. You know,
so something like a Montague Bagels Deli.
If you were going to go to the Montague Street Bagel Company in Brooklyn, it's on Montague Street. That's the name.
So good.
And if you were to go in there and they had on the menu right above the Stanley Cup, which is one of their specialty sandwiches.
Right above, because Stanley Cup's like the greatest sandwich ever.
Oh, I'm talking alphabetical order here. Alphabetical order.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Right above it, they have the Skyfall. And it's just called the Skyfall. What's on the Skyfall?
And down the line was the Pierce Brosnan, which we did on a previous film. Okay. Do you have any?
I'm asking you. What do you think?
Well, let's think about the bread. I think it's got to be pretty bland. It's got to be old. It's got to be aged. Something like a rye, what's like a good crusty.
I don't know. I think it's plain white bread, to be honest. I think it's a plain white. I think it's just plain white bread.
Oh, no way, because white bread that's so new. That's not old enough. That's not like old school.
Okay, all right.
Like if we're doing Skyfall, we gotta go old because sometimes the old ways are the best.
Okay, so you think white? Okay, I get what you're saying. All right.
I'm thinking maybe like marble rye.
Okay, so marble rye. I can go with that.
What about like a fish? What about like salmon?
Maybe. You know, I was
like a salmon sandwich.
Initially, I'm like, no, there's no water there, but there was that ice.
He ran over the lake,
over pond, the lake. Yeah, that he.
Well, it seemed very wet. It seemed very like it was a damp environment.
So you would think that the Bonds, that Andrew Bond. I got to run. You know, I got to drive 40 miles to the grocery store, or I can just run out back and get some salmon. I don't know if it's salmon would be in that pond. Would salmon be in that pond?
I don't know if it was a pond so much as like a wetland. Like obviously it was deep.
It was quite deep.
It looked like a water, like as if there. I think it backed up to like a water feature, as if it was a lake or if it was a peninsula or something like that. It could have been near the coast. I don't know. Let's just go with salmon.
Okay, salmon.
Okay, so a salmon sandwich. So what do you think there would be let's think of toppings, like a cheese,
I don't know.
A specific kind of spread or veggie.
Well, so the salmon is it grilled or is it fried or what? What do you think? Blackened?
Oh, we're not. I don't think they'd fry it. I think they would. I think they'd grill it.
Completely grilled. Okay. I don't know. I don't feel like cheese is the right answer. I think though some sort of sauce and like a cold crisp vegetable, like an onion and some sort of savory sauce.
Tartar sauce?
Some sort of tartar sauce and like a big thick onion or something.
Just have one big thick onion, like an onion ring, but without
like a big
big
onion ring.
Fried.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So we got the salmon sandwich with onions and tartar sauce on marble rye bread. Any other like special like signature thing to it? Like the way it's designed or the shape or the size?
I think it's cut in half and then sat side by side as to emulate the look of the front of the lodge. I don't know, man.
Like stood up on its side? Okay. And then before they hand it to you, do they set it on fire to reenact like its final stage?
If you have to be careful when you turn the lights on, or else nails might shoot you in the eye.
They make you walk like 3 miles to get it.
Yes.
Like we have it, but we have it at our other location that's across this field. And you have to walk through this tunnel through half of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that delivery system. It's like it's like a reverse delivery system. You have to travel really far to go get it. Okay. It's like a carry out, but an extreme carry out service.
Correct.
In Brooklyn.
You go in Brooklyn, you order at the Montague Street Bagel Company. They call over at their other location on Clark Street, which there's not one, but for this illustration there is.
There will be after we suggest these things to them.
And then you walk over to Clark Street and you pick up your sandwich there.
Well, I think it's a beautiful sandwich. I might make one tomorrow night for dinner. In fact, if I do, I will make sure to tweet a photo of it.
Okay, I hope you do.
And Sam Mendes, Daniel Craig, if you're listening to this,
of course it's a salmon sandwich because it's Sam Mendes. Salmon.
See, I knew we were thinking of that for a reason.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. That's good. You know what? That proves that we don't need Alabama dog.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
We kind of do need him, but yeah.
We can't do it without you, buddy. Wherever you are, put down the Peppy.
Don't put down the Peppy. Just bring it here. Just bring it here.
Just
get one of those Saint Bernard, little barrels under their chins. Fill it up with Peppy and bring it here.
Yes, that would be beautiful. All right, so we've talked a lot about this movie, maybe more than any other movie we've talked about on this podcast.
I gotta disagree. I feel like we've talked about all the movies sufficiently to the maximum amount we could have ever talked about them. So
really, all we do is talk about the movies. So Carlin, where would you place Skyfall in our tier system? And we aren't ranking these 1 through 23. We're doing top tier, middle tier, bottom tier. Where would this fall? Where would this Skyfall?
Skyfall.
I know you're aghast that I have to think about it. I know that you are. You're aghast because I know of your fondness for this movie, and I feel like in a way you should go first because I think it's obvious where it falls for you.
Top. It's a top. It's a top movie.
Yeah. I am not surprised that you think it's a top film.
I'm glad I'm so predictable as if I've had 23, 24 prior episodes to hint at this.
You've brought this up several times. You always constantly compare all the movies to Skyfall. It's like nothing can live up to Skyfall. And I've complimented this movie a great deal. I've said a lot of kind words about this movie. I've talked about how great the acting is and the direction and the cinematography and the character development. That reminds me. I watched this on Blu-ray. I don't know about you, but I watched this on Blu-ray and it looks great.
I watched it on Blu-ray too. Just telling you, I'm watching it on Blu-ray.
Yeah. And I'd say all that stuff, that adds up to it making it a great film. I don't think it's as great as you are. This is not my favorite James Bond movie.
You don't think it's as great as I am? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. It's not as great as I am. This movie is not as great as me.
Well,
it may not be what I said, but that's how I feel.
Is it better or worse than 007 Flash?
Better than 007 Flash, and I hope you don't take offense with it.
But that's a top tier movie.
I know, and I'm not saying I'm not putting this in my top tier. I am. I am putting this in my top tier. I just
you are.
I just want to preface that by saying that.
Jeez, the anticipation's killing me over here.
I know it's in my top tier, but it's just like part of me didn't want to put it there, and I admit
you just are that rebellious. Like you it belongs there, but you don't want to because I wanted it to. And
no, because I listed out right off the bat. I listed out problems I have with it. But those problems don't add up to enough to keep it out of the top tier. That's all I'm saying. I did want to just be upfront and say, hey, look, I said there were some problems with this movie. I feel like this is very reminiscent of my conversation we had about Goldfinger. It's like, yeah, there's problems with that movie. But it's in the top tier.
And there are things in Skyfall that I have problems with as well. I may not have voiced many of them on this episode, but I'm with you. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a movie anybody finds perfect, especially one that you revisit several times, like we have with Skyfall.
Okay, and then of course the last point is we've both placed it, but now was there a boat makeout scene in this movie?
That's a negative, unfortunately.
So does that take it down to the middle for you?
That is a notch down for Skyfall. I mean, it's the one missing link, I feel like, in this film. But yeah, no boat makeout.
So thus far, Daniel Craig has not had a...
You're right. He has not had a boat makeout.
Not an ending boat makeout scene.
Not an ending boat makeout. You're right. Because there was a boat makeout in Skyfall.
And in Casino Royale.
But no ending. Did we include that in our letter to Sam?
I'm pretty sure we did.
On a boat makeout?
I'll have to check my records, my carbon copy that I kept for myself.
It's also on our website.
Or that,
we can link to it again.
Our website. I know we're not ranking them, but I am curious, if you were to look at the list of the official James Bond films at this point, because we have now discussed all of them that have been released, because Spectre, as of this moment, has not been released. What would you say is your favorite, hands down, number one James Bond film?
I thought we weren't doing this. That's the whole
point
of the tier system.
We're not ranking them all 1 through 23. I'm just asking, and I've revealed before, Die Another Day at the bottom.
I thought you were going to say top.
Very bottom.
I thought you were going to say top.
But at the very, very top, what's your very, very top movie? And I'm not asking for number 2 and 3 and 4 and on down. I'm just asking for number one overall favorite movie.
Oh, that's such a tough question. It's such a tough question. what movie do I think is the best is different than what movie is my favorite. I think Skyfall is the best Bond film ever because it connects to almost every single other Bond film in really intelligent, personal ways.
You know, we didn't even really get into that in this episode. We talked about that with Die Another Day and how it was the 20th Bond film, and there were a lot of nods to previous films. And then 3 movies later, because it was the 50th anniversary, they do that kind of again, but in such a better, much more subtle way.
Yes, such a better way.
Yeah, but yeah,
and with that, because it's just a completely, you know, it's like it's the serious Bond. It's like a new generation of Bond, but yet they did it in such a way. It's like you can enjoy like the Bond franchise. Like this is a Bond franchise film. If there's ever a film to embody the Bond franchise, I think it's Skyfall. And I mean, but that's such a tough question because as a Bond fan, as a Bond expert, I'm such a fan of some of the other movies I've put in my top, like Casino Royale is a brilliant Bond film. It's absolutely incredible. And like I've said in this episode, without Casino Royale, I don't think a Skyfall movie ever would have happened. And in that sense, if GoldenEye didn't happen, I don't think Casino Royale would have happened. And obviously Sean Connery's films are great, but
I guess without Doctor No, none of it would have happened. I mean, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I'm just gonna say Skyfall. I'm just gonna say Skyfall.
So Skyfall is number one.
It's really hard for me to say that because it seems like a typical like non-Bond fan would say that Skyfall because it's such a cool film, and you know I don't really know all the old films, but I love that Skyfall was my favorite. It's something like Scott. Scott would love Skyfall, and he does love Skyfall. So, but it's like
I feel
expert.
That way about if anyone were to say that about
expert, you would expect somebody as a Bond expert. Oh, I'm sorry. You Only Live Twice is my favorite Bond film.
Right.
For this and this reason, but I'm not. I'm a Bond fan. I really like Skyfall.
There's an expectation of Bond experts, right? There's an expectation that you have to like the old ones. Like if your favorite movie is not before 1970, then you must not be a true Bond film.
You must not really appreciate Sean Connery for what he brings to the Bond franchise.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are like, and I don't want to get down this road again, but I like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and there's a lot of people who are like, that's the best film ever. There are a lot of people who are like that. You can't deny that.
Who think it's the best Bond film.
There are people who think it's the best film ever.
There's a lot of people like that.
And I like that movie a great deal. There's a lot of people I like. They're of course right. And I'm not going to go through the list of all my top movies, but I think I'm like you, and I think Casino Royale is a great film as well, and I would say that is the top of my list. And I feel a little bad because just like you're saying, like, Scott likes Skyfall, and people who like Skyfall, they're, they don't feel like they're James Bond fans.
Casino Royale, just because it's a Daniel Craig movie.
But I think it's a really well executed movie, and I find it, maybe not flawless, but near flawless, and really well done. So
it's brilliant.
So we've done it. We've covered every James Bond film up until this point. We only have now Spectre.
I'm pretty impressed. I know this is coming out on the 8th, but I'm pretty impressed that we've been able to the 8th. My apologies. I'm pretty impressed that we've been able to do all the films every month. We've come out with a new episode, and we've made no guarantees here.
We've Sheriff Peppered in
Nobody cuts and runs on Sheriff J.W. Pepper.
some other things as well. Bonus stuff, James Bond Jr., the Casino Royale, 007 Seen It. 007 Seen It. We've done a lot of stuff, and I think, even though you and I are the only ones to have made it to this point, of the three of us who started out, I gotta say, Aaron, congratulations. We did it.
Congratulations.
So we're going to do it again.
If you've listened to all of these episodes, congratulations to you as well. Because you deserve it.
You do. Good job, guys.
Good job.
We're going to do it again. We're going to come back next month, and the plan is to try and hit the 007th of next month and talk about Spectre right after having seen it.
Spectre comes out on the 6th.
Yeah, not
here in the
007
States.
seen it. 007 seen it. But 007 will have seen it, but not the game seen it.
Yeah, so we are going to try to fast track seeing Spectre so you can get an episode on November 007th, 2015. That is our goal.
If we have to stay up all night long, getting the production and cranking the podcast cranks and all that stuff, we'll do what we can. But we'll talk about Spectre next. That's the next episode.
I'm beyond excited. I can't believe we're already through Skyfall episode already. And the new movie's next month. I
know.
I hope our listeners are as excited as we are for the new Bond film. It's been a long 3 years.
Yep.
So
it's been a long 3 years, and I don't know about you, but a lot's changed for me. It'll be interesting to see what's changed for James Bond.
Who knows? Maybe he's collected more Earth One James Bond.
I hope he has a little Nelly.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like there might be an evil organization that might be hearkening back to Earth One James Bond.
I don't know what gives you that impression, but yes.
All right, I can't wait to see what dodgeball characters come out of this.
Yeah, me too. I'll probably be one of the only two people sitting in the theater watching that movie thinking, will they be a good candidate for my dodgeball team?
You know who I fully expect will appear in this movie?
Lisa Prentice?
Lisa Prentice.
Oh, well, because I wrote the letter to Sam.
And if there was one thing to take away from that letter, well, because everything else he's ignored thus far, is having Lisa Prentice appear in the film. So Lisa, because we know that you're a listener. She may be our 6th listener. Who knows?
I don't think she listens.
All right, wishful thinking. But we're holding out hope for Lisa Prentice to appear in the film. Actually, you are. I'm not, because you would draft her, and I don't want her any part of these teams because she would disqualify. Well, she would disqualify your helicopter now.
That's right. Sure. She would. However, think about it. You would be going first next time, so you could draft her.
Ooh. Well, I would not ruin my perfect team with Lisa Prentice. Sorry, Lisa. Not a fan.
Well, that will do it, I guess, this time. So we'll do it again for Spectre next month. Let me know. Let me know if you hear from Bama Dog.
From all of us here at Pod James Pod.
All two of us.
Thanks. All two of us here. Lonely. I in Nebraska, you in Florida.
Hey, feel free to visit me sometime if you want. Just hanging out.
If Bama Dog brings the Peppy to your place, maybe I'll consider it.
Okay.
All right. Well, I will talk to you next month.
All right. Bye.
Bye.